Friday, and just like that, we are back. I'm Anna. I'm a co founder of Albany Advisory. I work with retail brands on customer growth, loyalty, and digital strategy, helping them turn customer understanding into commercial outcomes. And that's exactly why I started Spotlight Fridays. It's a chance to have conversations with people in the industry who are solving all these challenges every day, sharing what's working, what doesn't, and where things are heading so we can all learn from each other and do it better. Today, we're talking about a fit problem with no one other but Zoltan. Zoltan, welcome to Spotlight Fridays.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me. It's super exciting to be here.
I'm very excited to have you as well. So, tell us a little bit about you.
10 years ago, I started a fashion brand called Citizen Wolf. And then a year ago, and we built a bunch of technology to power that brand. And then a year ago, we spun that tech out into a new company called Magic Fit. We always expected and hoped, I suppose, that what we were building for the brand had wider application out to the rest of the industry. But we were, deep in the weeds of building a DTC brand. And so, yeah, it took us a good, effectively 9 years to get to the point where we started to repurpose it. And now Magic Fit's running and we've got clients and it's a size recommendation solution, basically.
It's a great solution. Can I tell you, I went through it. I've used Citizen Wolf before, but I went through the whole journey in preparation for our conversations just to see if anything has changed in the last few months since I have not been on the side. And it took me about 30 seconds to pick the t-shirt that I wanted. 30 seconds, and I used Magic Fit. It was remarkable. Maybe less than 30. I'm probably not very fast at typing my details, but it was brilliant. And congratulations. I think I looked at Magic Fit as a pre-purchase, post checkout solution, not post checkout solution. And I want to unpack about this a little bit. But it was brilliant. It's a great, it's absolutely seamless journey and very enjoyable as well because it's very difficult for me to find a t-shirt that fits very well, and I know it is for a lot of people. So when you find something that recommends a perfect fit and size based on all my measurements, I'm in, and I don't care how much it costs. So thank you very much for that, and well done. So at what point? So you've built a fashion brand and a tech platform. So what problem did you see that made you shift from brand to technology?
Um, Citizen Wolf is a made to measure clothing brand, right? So we don't face, or that business doesn't face the same issues that many others in the industry do. But it's safe to say that fit is the biggest problem in fashion. Now, made to measure is one solution, and it's a great one, but it's also a very difficult one operationally. And you know, if the entire fashion industry was going to change their entire supply chain tomorrow to become made to measure, or at least made to order, that that would be, I think, the best solution for the planet, for the customers, and ultimately also for their businesses. The reality, unfortunately, is that most brands are unable and probably also unwilling to fundamentally change the way they do business. And so, if you imagine Citizen Wolf is set up as effectively a blueprint for the future of the fashion industry, the way things should be in an ideal world, Magic Fit is really designed to meet the industry where it is today. So instead of throwing throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, we're not Magic Fit doesn't ask brands to reinvent, reimagine, redesign their supply chain. Instead, what it does is it just gets people, gets their customers into the correct size before they hit the cart. And in doing so, we've discovered quite a few things happen, namely returns go down, and that's probably quite obvious, right? If you can if you can eliminate size anxiety at the start and get people into the right size, you know, then returns are going to go down. What we've also found, though, and this is really interesting, and it was unexpected in many ways, what we've discovered working with our clients thus far is that size confidence actually translates into higher AOV. People spend more money when they're confident that they're not going to have to go through the returns process. They spend more money and they convert more. And so Magic Fit, in sum, reduces costs by reducing returns and juices revenue at the same time. And so it really does supercharge profitability for fashion ecom brands. And I think that's the greatest surprise to us. But maybe it's not such a surprise, because when you go back to it, I think there's two questions that underlie every online fashion or apparel purchase. Is it going to fit? Right? And if not, how much of a pain in the ass is the returns process going to be? Because if the returns process sucks, and frankly, most do, because returns just generally suck, the best return is the one that doesn't happen, right? And that's the best for the customer. It's the best experience. It's also the best for the brand. And so, yeah, I think it's just the human truth behind buying clothes online. It's a pain in the ass. So we just make it easier. And then all of these benefits flow to the brand, like operationally, but also, as I said, it's the best customer experience.
But I think it's very good that you aligned the Citizen Wolf with Magic Fit, because with that Magic Fit, that would rely on us, a customer, making the right measurements, right? So you would need a tape measure. I don't know many people. Do you have a tape measure? Like, who has a tape measure these days?
I do, but I don't think many people do. And look, I think it's safe to say that even if you do have a tape measure, you don't know how to use it accurately, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and if
And
you don't, then the whole thing, whom are you to blame? If you didn't take the right measurements, then you're gonna blame the manufacturer, not yourself. It's just
totally.
still cumbersome. But I could see it on the side because of the Magic Fit, and it's beautifully displayed as well. That's what makes it so enticing and so much quicker. But for the life of me, please explain to all of us, why is fit still such a big problem? It's 2026.
Yeah. Um, I think the reality is brands, they get into a way of doing things, a business model that, and no one really questions it, right? But the standard size breaks, the inventory supply chain that sits behind any fashion brand wasn't designed for consumers. Let's just be really clear. The way clothing is made at scale traditionally, big orders in a factory, who knows where it is, and then a bunch of boxes arrive in a DC ready to be shipped out. That process was optimized for the manufacturer firstly, and for the brand secondly, and the customer is just like a distant third. And that is just the reality of the fashion industry. I think, said differently, it's like standard sizes fail almost everybody. There are a few people that fall right in the middle of like a medium or a large, or whoever it is, but almost everybody has one physical dimension which is wrong. Maybe the medium t-shirt is the right length, but it's too narrow in the shoulders, or whatever it happens to be. And as a consumer of fashion, and that's all of us, we don't really know any different. And so compromise is just the baseline. Compromise is the reality for everyone buying standard size breaks online. And so for Citizen Wolf, it was really natural to then go, well, if that's like just the way it is, but it's a bit shit, can't we make it better? And then let's go made to measure. And that's what we did. We ended up building an entire brand and business based on made to measure casual clothes. The reality is, though, there's not that many people that are shopping for made to measure. There's not that many people that can afford made to measure, let alone made in Australia. And so Citizen Wolf is what it is. I love it so much, but it's only going to grow to a certain size, right? Our mission, clearly stated at Citizen Wolf over the years, and it hasn't changed, is to unfuck the fashion industry. We can't do that by ourselves. We know we can't do that by ourselves. Systemic change isn't in the remit of one little brand from Australia. I think Citizen Wolf exists as a siren or a lighthouse for the way things can be done. But as I said at the start, like most people aren't going to redesign, most brands aren't going to redesign their supply chain tomorrow, even if it's better for the customer, even if it's better for the planet, and honestly, even if it's better for their bottom line, because there's just the friction and the inertia of change is so great. So we're stuck in this legacy way of just making too much stuff, trying to predict in advance what people are going to buy in the future, which is just foolish, right? It's just insane that the whole industry exists like that. And then the reality is we're left with 1 in 3 pieces of clothing going to landfill every year unsold, right? It didn't need to be made. That is the reality. The fact that the fashion industry can still be profitable with a 30% wastage rate is the thing that I just still have not got my head around, but it's true. So the industry is just fundamentally flawed. But if if people can't or won't, change the way they do business, then we develop Magic Fit to meet them where they are and to try and optimize the way that the supply chain as it exists today is run.
You're such a great disruptor in the best possible way because as you were talking about it, I just realized that maybe 130 years ago, before the whole industrialization, that all suits were tailor made. I
Mm.
remember my grandfathers and also my grandmothers made their own clothing too. And it never occurred to me that actually how the whole thing happened and everything looked beautiful and fit perfectly. But you're right, there are no standard sizes. It's impossible. Everyone's got a different body shape and it changes all the time. And well, sometimes, but hopefully not. But not for too much either way. But I think it's a big problem that it's almost, I don't know, it's almost impossible to solve. So we need these solutions like digital the virtual fitting rooms and Magic Fit to understand how to choose that perfect size for us. And good on you. I think anything that is new is always it's difficult to promote, and it's difficult to persuade the market what they need because, and especially now with the whole what's happening globally, it's there are so many problems to solve. Like which ones do you solve first? But
Yeah,
to your point, there everyone has size anxiety. We know that. But the
yeah,
thing is, when you have size anxiety, it will stop you from checking out. Therefore, it
definitely.
impacts your conversion, it impacts your sales targets. You're losing that customer. Ultimately, it impacts your the lifetime value of that customer as well. So there is that chain effect that happens just from that size anxiety. And I know
Yeah,
myself. It's 99% of shoes that I buy online, I have to return.
yep. It's crazy, and there are no universal standard sizes, and there likely never will be. Um, the most frustrating thing as a consumer, I think, is if you're repeat shopping a brand that already exists, sorry, that you've bought from before, you still don't always know that you're going to get the right size. And that's the craziest thing. And I think this came up in the comments on the LinkedIn event or somewhere else, but you were saying that you're often, you're bouncing between 3 different sizes, even within the same brand. And that's like super common. And how incredibly frustrating is it that the brand hasn't got their shit together to go, well, this body fits this size across every single product. But that's the reality because, silhouettes change. And the other thing is personal preference. I think something that we were doing the Citizen Wolf business for or it still continues today. I'm not part of it, but it's still running. That business, the whole crux is made to measure is personal preference. If you boil it down, you're basically getting exactly what you want and you're getting it to fit in exactly the way you want. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart at Magic Fit in terms of a technology solution is that we have this incredibly deep well of data from Citizen Wolf and from all of the clothing that we've made over the years that basically walks the line between how does somebody want the garment to fit And how does that differ from the way the designer intended? Because those two things are not always the same. And I feel like a lot of other people in the size recommendation space just sort of don't really get that the personal preference is actually the defining factor of fit. Like, fit's subjective. Does it fit me? Yes. Could it be better? Probably, but like, I'm happy with it as it is, or I want it a bit longer or tighter or shorter, or whatever it happens to be. And so we walked that line for 10 years at Citizen Wolf. And we saw both sides of that, of basically what sums up to be a great fitting garment. And at the end of the day, that's what we want, right? I don't know about you, Anna, but the things that I wear most often are the things that fit me the best, right? They're the things that you grab instinctively in the morning when you're just like half asleep and you've got to get out the door and whatever, because they make you feel good. And the great news is when you have something that fits and you wear it a lot, then you buy a lot less shit too. So like, it's net positive for the planet. I think Citizen Wolf treated fit as a strategic differentiator, and I think it's safe to say every made-to-measure business does. But what Magic Fit's seeking to do is to allow any brand with a standard size break inventory model to also treat fit as a strategic differentiator. Slightly different way, but the outcome's the same. To your point, it's all about LTV and making sure that the people that buy your clothes love them, wear them, and then come back when they need more.
There are so many differentiators. I had a recent experience a couple of months ago. I walked into a store in Armadale. The average order value, I'm guessing, about $350. So it's not a cheap brand.
Yep.
And the shop assistant said to me, I wouldn't try this item in your size. I would go a size smaller. A size smaller meant I had to try an extra small. I'm not an extra small by no any means of imagination. And but because it's quite a high end brand, I think they train their staff already on size differentiator. But also there are personal preferences. What if I do like an oversized and baggy kind of style? I don't want everything fitted. So then yes, it's just it's mind-boggling how difficult it is. So no wonder you refer to it as size anxiety, because it is definitely for me, and I'm sure there is for a lot of people. So in saying all that, and we recognize many problems with that. So why I don't see Magic Fit on every single apparel e-commerce site?
I mean, that's the question I ask myself all the time too. It's funny, when we started, I went through a very unscientific process, but I went through all of the brands that I'd subscribed to over the 9-10 years at Citizen Wolf, all around the world, but very heavily based here in Australia. And only 1 in 5 was actually less, was running some kind of size recommendation solution. And it was the first thing I was like, that's insane. Like, what? If you're in the standard size break inventory model, why is this not the first app that you install after you spin up your Shopify site? And I think historically the size recommendation space is overpromised and underdelivered. The 800-pound gorilla in the room doesn't generally take tech packs. They just like read the generic size guide. Oh, your chest is 95 to 100 centimeters, ergo you're a medium in everything that the brand makes. But as I said, that's just not true. We know that often you're a different size even within the same brand. And so I think people are just like, well, it doesn't work, right? Like, a great idea, poorly executed, and then everyone's like, oh, well, that size recommendation thing, damn, it's a shame that doesn't work. The reality is, as I said, because we've been making clothes, Citizen Wolf is a clothing manufacturer. We, as Magic Fit now, we ask for the tech packs, the same graded garment tables that the brands send the factory in order to produce the clothing. And we do that because, one, we understand it, and two, we know also that that's the only way that we can give really accurate size recommendations to our customers. And it's the only way that we can basically deleverage the number or the letter on the tag. And what I mean by that is, if you're wearing a large or a medium or a small, it doesn't matter. The tag doesn't matter so long as it actually fits. Now, there's a comms issue for the brands. If you are wearing 3 sizes across the range, that's something that they need to get around and communicate and all the rest of it. But ultimately, the point is Magic Fit exists to get you in the correct size. And so, irrespective of what the label may say, and the only way we can do that is using garment measurements. And so, yeah, I think that's again something that sets us apart. And as I said, we've got this deep well of data from the made to measure business that we've developed over the years. So we also, one important thing is, Magic Fit gets you the answer in 2 clicks. You go find my size, submit your biometrics. I didn't say this, I should have. All we ask is height, weight, age, bra. That's it. No measuring tapes, no apps to install, no photos in your knickers, which other people do ask for. And ultimately, no size guides. You don't have to go to the size guide if Magic Fit's installed. And then we get you the answer in 2 clicks. So I think, and one other thing I didn't say before, but like size guides, returns suck. Returns are the biggest problem in fashion, don't get me wrong, but like size guides are quite close, a close second, I'd say. They put all of the cognitive load of getting the right size onto the consumer. And I just think that's fundamentally incorrect. That is not how it works in physical retail, to your point. And that's not how it should work, right? The customer's already, trying to make 1,000 decisions. Do I like red, or do I need black, or do I want it tight, or do I, all of these things. Is that going to suit me? Is it good for my body shape? Do I like the fabric? Blah, blah, blah. There's already so many thousands of decisions you have to make just to like get a bloody t-shirt. It's insane. And so then assuming somebody's going to go to all the effort of like getting out a measuring tape, I think it's just flawed. So one of our clients is Koto, and I think they're world class in their size guide. Their like traditional size guide is as good as it gets. They have multiple models with all the dimensions. They have tech pack drawings. They have garment measurements. They have standard like body measurements. They have it all. And you go there and you're like, wow, that is just like, I need like a PhD to just like get the right size in this dress. It's like crazy, right? Whereas, by contrast, if you're in the store, that's not how it works, because the shop assistant can help you. And Magic Fit same. You put in your biometrics and then we just tell you with great certainty, this is the size you should buy. But if you want it looser or tighter, then here are the options.
I like that you call the size chart cognitive load. I hate them with
Yeah.
passion. They're so cumbersome and they are so difficult and so open for interpretation. And I think it's the brands put it there because they have to have it there, but it's always an afterthought. Who goes through it?
Yeah.
And then you have a scenario when people don't use Travis Mirror, for example, and they don't have Magic Fit, and they just order it in a few sizes. Our returns from Iconic, which is the virtual fitting room, were up to 47%.
Yeah.
The return sits right now what at 50 to 53 roughly. I heard it somewhere the
Crazy.
stats. It is
Yeah.
it is crazy. So at what point we're going to stop treating returns as a cost of doing business and actually looking at the core issue, to your point. And we actually tried to address it years ago. I don't know if you know of I think it's called True Fit. Is it
Mhm.
True? So when TrueFit just entered the Australian market years ago, it was just us and Forever New that were looking into it. Anyway, we implemented it, and it was a very costly exercise.
Mhm.
And every year, when I was doing the budget for the year ahead, I would look at the cost, and I'd like, oh my god, I wish we didn't have to pay that much money for it. And I always wanted to shut it down. And every single time I wanted to shut it down, I would have a look at the dashboard and it would give us the highest conversion rate.
Yeah.
People who went through the TrueFit journey and had the confidence in sizing, they would check out, and that conversion rate set above anything else because there was nothing else. You were not around at that point in time with Magic Fit, so
Mm.
it was just that was available. And I understand what you're saying about size anxiety because that's what diminished that size anxiety and increased the conversion rate and the AOV at the same time. So
Yeah.
It is a big problem. Returns is also very often is a hidden communication on the website. It's not that easy to understand them and where to find them and how to process it, and it is painful as well. So
Yeah,
there is a lot of friction that post purchase that happens. But I'm just surprised, and this is why I asked you that question, that I don't see Magic Fit on more e-commerce sites. It's a no-brainer. And it's a
thank you.
no-brainer for a person who does it for a living. I looked at customer data and I analyzed it, and I ultimately suggest to retailers what to do in order to improve that and to drive that growth through the customer experiences and the whole CX across end to end.
Yeah,
So,
I
hence,
think
I wanted
that
to have this
just
conversation.
yeah, thank you. I mean, I was also going to say, I think traditionally also it's been perceived as a really heavy lift, sorry, in terms of, the ecom team effectively has to suddenly import or get across all of this product data in order to make a system like Magic Fit work. But because we were running a direct to consumer brand for many, many years, we were sitting in that seat. And so when we started Magic Fit, we made sure we wanted to do a few things. And one of which was make sure that we do all the work. So we don't ask our retailers to do anything apart from send us the garment table, the graded garment table, and then we do it all. And the other thing is, like, we made sure that we wanted to take that bespoke philosophy of clothing made to measure into software. And you mentioned TrueFit, it's a really ugly generic badge that you have to put on the PDP.
Yeah,
And I don't know who came up with that, but like they don't know, they don't understand fashion because fashion websites, oh my God, how many people are involved in the design of a PDP? About 1 million, right? It's the beating heart of any e-com site, but in fashion in particular, so much effort and energy goes into building the world that surrounds that purchase decision. And then to think that they're going to slap on this ugly ass generic true fit badge, I think it just makes sense. So like we really made sure that with Magic Fit, it looks native. It doesn't break the experience. Nobody even knows that it's about Magic Fit. I don't give a shit if nobody knows Magic Fit, as long as my retailers are making more money because their customers are getting size confidence. That's what matters to me. It's not about building the brand of Magic Fit. It's about enabling our retailers' brands to have a better experience in their customers' minds. And I think that's really, really important.
agree. There was a question before we started our conversation, and I'm going to read it to you if you don't mind,
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap it up because I think it's will provide us with an excellent summary for our conversation. In a world where most fashion brands are still asking customers to guess at fit and commit upfront, you have gone the opposite direction. What have you learned about how people want to buy when you remove that uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, there's two questions behind every online apparel purchase. Will it fit, and how much of a pain in the ass is the returns? The reality is people don't want to go through the return process and they will just not shop. Like if that process is difficult, or I've met some brands that still don't offer refunds. They only give store credit. I mean, that's such a I can't believe it, right? It's 2026. Madness. But like that, if that process is difficult or there's friction in it like that, people just bounce. So the best return is the one that doesn't need to happen. It's better for the brand, it's better for the retailer. All we ask in upfront is a tiny little bit of biometric info, and then we're able to put you in the correct size. And as I said, what that means is that people are generally predisposed to then spend more money. Because once they have confidence that they're getting the right size, they don't need to bracket buy, first of all. So, already there's like 2x the garment price that you've got sort of floating around. And so you're like, oh, well, I'll add this other thing in here, right? Um, One thing, and then the other thing is conversion, right? People just, because they're confident that that anxiety was eliminated, now you got confidence, and then they're like, well, cool, I will go through it because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have to deal with the returns process. And so it it just makes that experience of buying clothes online so much less. There's so much less friction in the experience, and that higher conversion is the output.
Yeah, brilliant. Do you know, I would like to actually link it to loyalty as well,
Mm,
because we can have a look beyond that transactional value. I think it creates that emotional value as well for customers because of that confidence. To your point, they will because it fits them well, and they will come back to this brand and purchase from them again because they have that trust that that
yep,
brand understands them, they care for them because
yep,
they thought about every single touch point before that checkout process, including the size anxiety. Therefore, they build that emotional connection with the brand. And once it's built, you know, familiarity creates comfort and
totally.
confidence as well. They will come back and purchase again. Here comes their high LTV.
That's right. And in a world where, CPMs are constantly going up, acquisition costs are constantly going up, I know this from my days at Citizen Wolf. It's incredibly hard these days to acquire a customer online profitably. Um, and so I think you're exactly right. Like making sure that LTV is part of that calculation and making sure you're optimizing for LTV. I think it's just table stakes these days. No one can rely anymore on putting up an ad on Meta and Instagram or whatever, and then it pops off and you're selling off the hook. And even if you are, if there's this huge amount of returns coming back, you're just leaking profit, right? So fit is the thing that basically, I think, uh, fit is the thing that plugs all the holes in that leaky bucket, right? So that if you get fit right as a retailer, as a brand, you just get to keep more
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it
Absolutely.
makes so much sense.
Absolutely. You have to get the product right, then you have to get the fit right, then you have to find the customers that will like both, and then you're the winner.
Yeah,
That's very, very simple. So I hope that dismantles any anxiety people may have about sizing and what to do about it. And I hope you're gonna get lots of inquiries from
thanks.
after this chat because I certainly enjoyed it. I think you're a very good advocate for it, and I love when people disrupt things not for the sake of disrupting, but for something that definitely ultimately improves that experience for all customers who shop. And no one's going to stop shopping
That's
online
right.
or offline. This is not what's going to happen, global crisis or not. So thank you so much, Zoltan. That's been such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I hope people who joined us live also enjoyed it, and the ones who will be watching the recording. Thanks to everyone who joined us. I wish you to have a fantastic day ahead and a great weekend. And I'll see you in a fortnight. Bye, everyone.